Okay, everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We are really excited to share all this awesome information with you and give you all the knowledge that we didn't have when we were going through the same process that you're about to undertake. My name is Andrea Quann. I am a realtor in Des Moines, Iowa. With the Remax Precision is my brokerage. I've been a realtor for about 4.5 years now. Um, I am married to my husband, JT, who is a general surgeon at the VA here in Des Moines. And we have been married married since like fourth year med school, but together since second. Been together for a lot of the whole medical journey and done a lot of moves together. Our whole journey is one of the main things that inspired my foray into real estate.
I'm Tundi Brady. I'm a realtor out of Iowa City or Iowa City area with Urban Acres Real Estate. I've been a realtor for 12 years and welcome.
And I'm Jessica Campbell. I am with Greene State Credit Union. I am a mortgage loan officer there. I have been in mortgage for about 20 years now, and 9 of those have been with Greene State, and the most recent 4 to 5, I've been a loan officer. So Greene State, being in the Iowa City market, has come up with, we have our own in-house portfolio physician loan product. So I'm excited to tell you guys all about that and also show you guys some numbers.
All right. So basically, the goal of this whole thing is to share our knowledge and give you guys a lot of ideas and just sort of a wealth of knowledge from our experience in what we've done working with residents and working with physicians and living the life. And all of that knowledge that you can take and use as you graduate from medical school and move on to residency. Um, so, uh, Tundi and I are both realtors, but we also consider ourselves physician relocation specialists. Kind of how we define that is most importantly, someone who has a unique knowledge of the physician lifestyle. We're both married to physicians and have gone through a lot of those transitions with our spouse and our families. That's kind of one of the things that we think is unique. Um, and then also with that, making those transitions, we have that knowledge of what it's like to move to a new area without sort of a built-in support system and kind of what that feels like. Um, and we have in our areas, we have connections and resources, because we know what that's like. We have those relationships in our areas to help you get settled where we are. We can share those with you, make that transition a little smoother. Just we're very familiar with what it's like to make multiple moves in a short amount of time. My family and me and my husband have moved 4 different times for medicine. And then within that, sort of like 6 houses and 6 moves within about 7 years. So that was between moving from med school to residency and then residency to our first job to second job to third job, all kind of within a really short time span. So, really familiar with that and kind of how that feels and what that looks like and sort of the urgency and the needs that come along with that. And then, we've lived the student loan burden. We know what that's like and how that factors into maybe some of the decisions that you'll make. And then the journey, from schooling then to residency and kind of what that salary looks like, and then on to the next level and kind of what that looks like. And just being familiar with that. People who aren't familiar hear the word doctor and they get certain ideas. And unless you've lived it, it's hard to kind of understand those financial realities. Then just having good relationships with lenders who have good physician loan products. Some lenders may say that they have a physician loan product, but it's not a true physician loan. And there are a lot of details that make something a true physician loan, and Jessica will share some of those with you later on. But just knowing that if you're working with a physician relocation specialist, they're going to have those relationships and kind of be able to put you in touch with someone who has a good product.
And oh, go ahead, Andrea.
Oh, and then I just like we have connections to people who are similar to us, and not just each other here in Iowa, but throughout the country. And Tundi will tell you a little bit.
So Andrea and I are both part of a group called Moving Medicine Partners. And for those of you that are at the University of Iowa, you might be familiar with the Iowa Medical Partners. It's kind of a very similar name, but this is an organization of realtors who are either married to or partners with a physician. And so realtors who understand that process that Andrea just kind of went through, that we all kind of experience. So if you are moving anywhere in the country, you can reach out to us and we can try to connect you with someone who is part of the organization. If there is no one in your area that you're moving to, we could also do research to find someone in your area that might not be part of Moving Medicine Partners, but has that focus. So that you have somebody that has been working with people and understands the different kinds of things to look for in a physician loan, et cetera. So this is also helpful because not every residency program that you're moving to, or even if you're getting your final job, the hospital or institution might not have a recommendation for you. And sometimes they're limited by their institutional rules on whether or not they can give recommendations to other services. So this is another resource for you to kind of dip into. We are, of course, full service realtors. We work with all kinds of buyers and sellers, but this is an area that we have some expertise in and our focus in. So, and we can help, as we said, connect you with student or find a physician loan lender programs. And also we can help evaluate renting versus buying with you, because that's often what you want to do when you're in a temporary spot or when you're doing residency. In some places, it might not be worth buying. Sometimes it's very much worth buying. So we can help you work through that. And I should say, if any of you are incoming medical residents and still in med school, you potentially do qualify for a mortgage loan for buying a home, especially in places like Iowa and the Midwest, where very often a mortgage on a home is affordable and very often equal to or less than what it costs to rent that same home. So that's something to just really compare apples to apples to. Obviously, there are parts of the country where this is not going to be the case. Manhattan, LA, probably renting is going to be much more realistic. But in the Midwest, we find that it really comes out that way. Something that I think in both the Des Moines market and Iowa City market, we have found for over, I'd say 12 years since I started being a realtor, so it's gone back for many years before that, that typically the break-even point, if one person buys a home and one person decides to rent that same home, so comparing identical properties, after the 2-year mark, the buyer will start to be financially ahead of a renter. So that's just something to keep in mind. So rule of thumb, our recommendation is typically if you're going to be in one place for 3 years, financially, it is to your benefit to buy rather than rent when you're comparing apples to apples. Obviously, if you're going to rent one room of a very small house, that's super affordable, that's going to be different than buying a 3 bedroom, 2 bath home. But that's something to just kind of keep in mind as you go forward, knowing that buying is an option as a resident.
Um, Another thing to think about in terms of a, a rent versus buy situation is sort of stability and predictability. Um, with rents, we do see rents that kind of continue to change and go up realistically. And so if you're in a place, um, unless you sign a multi-year lease or something like that, you may find that after a year or so, your landlord is asking to increase your rent, and that may not be something that you were prepared for. Whereas with a mortgage, your payments are going to be very predictable over the lifespan of your residency, at least. So that is kind of nice. Something too when you're renting versus buying is that you want to think about your goals. So this is very much personalized. You know, things that come into play again are like student loans and savings. Some programs, I know the programs here do offer 401ks, some don't. But if that's a priority to you, saving, just kind of what that looks like. And then just thinking about the future, like how your life might change over your residency. When we started residency, my husband and I were married, but didn't yet have any children. He was general surgery residency, so it's 5 years. So we knew that probably over that time, our situation was going to change and we might want to start a family. And so when we looked for a house, we made sure that we would be able to afford that on just his salary so that I would have the option of not working if I wanted to stay home with the kids. And so what we ended up doing, because we also knew that paying pretty aggressively on our student loans was also a priority for us. And so we made sure that the house that we bought, we could afford on just his residency salary. And then the money that I was making, we could save and use towards paying off our student loans and things like that. So very much personalized to each individual and each person's situation. If you're a single person, your situation is going to be different than someone who maybe is married or someone who has a family or is planning on starting a family during residency. So just kind of looking ahead and thinking about what that looks like to you. Um, and then we have another consideration of the flexibility and the options. So I know that in the Des Moines area, we have a pretty open and available kind of leasing environment where you're going to be able to find a lease on a home, condo, townhome at almost any time of the year. And I know for Tundi, like for Iowa City, it's a little different.
Yeah, in Iowa City, our property managers tend to begin the leases August 1st and run through the end of July. So if you're coming here, keep an eye on that. Just be very cognizant. You will run into many that began August 1st, and that is why they, at some point many years ago, realized that works best for them because of the college, because of the university cycle. So there definitely are rentals that are ready to go in June when a resident would need to come here, but you'll run into many that are not an option. So just keep an eye on that as well if you're coming here. And actually, wherever you go, because different markets might have that same issue.
So yeah, so thinking about like university town versus like big city versus like a smaller town, all of those things are going to factor into what that lease environment looks like. And then thinking about just your priorities and your time. With home ownership, you're going to have certain responsibilities that you're not going to have with a lease. So, you know, if you're buying a single family home, you may have a yard, you're going to have a driveway probably, and a sidewalk that needs shoveling in the winter. So things like that. Then if things come up in the home that need just care, cleaning, fixing, that's going to be the same in the rental. But yeah, like if your dishwasher breaks down as a homeowner, that's going to be something that you're going to be responsible for. Whereas with a lease, then you call the landlord and they have it fixed. There are things that we can do as real estate professionals to help you with that. So if you know that you'd like to own, but maybe you want less maintenance, then maybe you look at more of a townhome situation that has an HOA that covers maybe lawn care, shoveling, exterior maintenance of the home, so that you're not responsible for that. And then there are home warranties that are available that we can write into the offer, even asking maybe the seller to cover the cost of that for you, so that at least for the first year while you're getting settled, then if that dishwasher breaks or whatever, you call your warranty company, and then you have a little bit of help towards things like that. So there are ways to mitigate those kind of risks of ownership as well. So yeah, that's kind of talking about renting versus buying. So now we're going to dig a little bit more into buying with our expert, Jessica. She's going to tell you all about physician home loans and kind of what that could look like for you.
Definitely. So I'll try not to get too far in the weeds. If you want to go to the next slide here. So Greene State, so being in the town with the University of Iowa hospitals and clinics. So over the years, we've kind of custom tailored our own portfolio physician loan program. So with physician loans, one of the biggest hurdles can be student loan debt. So anything outside of or inside of 2 years from graduation, we do not count any student loan payments against you. So that will help with debt to income ratio when we're trying to qualify you for a loan. We also allow a little bit higher debt to income ratio, just because we know, your income is going to be increasing each year. And eventually, you're going to be a fellow or a physician. And so we know the market. We've custom tailored this for years. So our different programs here. So we do offer 100% financing. They do go up to those different limits. You can go up to $1 million home purchase at 100% financing. You have to have a 700 or better credit score to do that. And you also have to have the income to make the debt to income work for that. But for the structure of the loan, if you want to go to the next slide.
Hang on a second. If anybody, can you go back just to give people, if you all would like to take a quick screenshot of this, just so you have the information, I want to give you just a second to do it. And I just want to also emphasize, if you move away from the Iowa, from Iowa, and you get physician loans, not just as a resident, but as you're a physician forever. Ask questions. Look at this and ask questions of whatever financial institution, because we might not have a Greene State available if you move away. So dig into the details and comparison shop. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Tundi. So for the loan structure, so with our 100% financing, we do structure it as a 90% first and a 10% second. So that 90% first mortgage is going to be an adjustable rate mortgage. So we have a 5/1, a 7/1, and a 10/1 adjustable rate mortgage available. And what that means to you is that your interest rate is going to be fixed for that first period, the 5, 7, or 10 years. And then each year after that, it could adjust based on what the market is doing. And then that 10% second to get us to the 100% financing, that is going to be a 10-year balloon. And what that means is that the payment is spaced out over 30 years, but the loan does mature in 10 years. So at the end of 10 years, if you only made the minimum payments on that loan, there would be a balance left at the end of 10 years. And you could either pay that off or refinance that into a new second mortgage at that time.
And I think adjustable rate mortgages have gotten a bad rap, but they're very, they make a lot of sense for residency because your training is temporary. And we're going to get into a little bit more on sort of thinking ahead on what that looks like. But yeah, I think they get a bad rap. But in your case, like as, being in a residency, they're very, very practical.
you know how long your residency is going to be. So, I mean, if you know your residency is going to be a five years, then maybe you do the 7 year just to give you a little bit of cushion. Or let's say you're already planning ahead and you're thinking, hey, like even after we leave, this might be an investment property for us. We're going to rent it out and have someone else pay our mortgage for us. So that's definitely an option. But maybe you want to do the 10 year, so you have the longest fixed rate term of the ARMs. So.
And um, just to make sure everyone knows what an adjustable rate mortgage is, because maybe you don't. If you haven't bought a house, you might not have had to even think about it. What the 5-1, 7-1, 10-1, when you hear those terms, what those mean is for a 5-1, the rate stays the same for 5 whole years. It doesn't matter what happens out there in the world. The rates could have exploded. Your rate's going to stay the same for all 5 of those years, or 7 years, or 10 years, whichever kind of product you bought into. And then when that 5 years is up, then is when it adjusts. So if you know you're in one place for 4 years, you can get a 7-1 or a 10-1 or a 5-1 even, and you know it's going to be steady. You sell the house after 4 years, it never changed. So it acted like a fixed rate. Okay.
Tundi. Now we're going to look at some numbers and what that could look like. So I will tell you that today we did get notice that our rates are going down. So that's very exciting. And on top of that, we are offering on our physician loan program a 0.25 discount on the rate as well if you lock in before June 30th. So those two things will help these payments come down a little bit more. But wanted to give you an idea of what buying something could look like in the 250 to 325 price range. So kind of basing off of the first year resident salary, kind of around that 67,000. That 325 might be, if you don't have any other debts other than student loans, that would most likely be the max that you would be able to qualify for on a purchase. Now, if you have a spouse or significant other that will also be working, maybe they have a job, they're working now and they're going to be able to transfer remotely and continue on with that job, or they've already looked in areas and they have a job lined up already and have that job offer. We could also add in their income, and you guys could potentially qualify for even larger purchase price if you would want to do that. But also keeping in mind all the things Andrea said earlier about, do you want to hit your student loans hard and get those paid off? Do you want to put a little extra in savings, or, things like that? So keep those in mind too. But this will give you an idea when you're looking at renting as well, because if you look at those payments on that bottom line down there, that is what the monthly payment is with, the first mortgage payment, the second mortgage payment, estimated insurance, and estimated property taxes. So it doesn't include if your dishwasher breaks or anything like that, but that will give you an idea when you're looking at rentals, like, okay, well, I could rent this property for $2,300, but I could also buy it for $2,300. So if you're going to be here for, more than that 2 years, it would probably make more sense to buy at that point. So
those numbers up there, those numbers up there for purchase price. So in the Des Moines area, our average purchase price is hovering right around that 330 mark right now. And so I will tell you, within that 250 to 325 range, with those numbers showed here, there's going to be a lot to pick from. Our inventory has been rising over the past year, and there's going to be just a lot to pick from in those price ranges. And that's single family, townhome, condo, any of those, styles of home would be available in these price ranges for you in the Des Moines area with a good selection.
And on that point, we are going to take oh no, we have one more slide. I lied. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's talk about out of pocket, what it's going to cost you to buy a home. So when you buy a home, there are closing costs and prepaids when you purchase a home. So closing costs, they're going to be for things such as our origination fee, the appraisal, credit report, flood cert, your title and recording fees. So average in the state of Iowa is about $2,500 for closing costs. You're also going to have prepaid expenses. So those are going to be your first year's homeowners insurance premium, some interest until your first payment is due, and then the deposit for your escrow account. You may be thinking, what is an escrow account? So basically we take 1/12 of your property taxes and insurance and add those to your monthly payment. So those 1/12 payments go into an escrow account along with this initial deposit to make sure there's going to be enough in the account to fund for the next year. And then we pay the taxes and insurance when they're due on your behalf. That account does get analyzed once a year. So unfortunately, taxes and insurance usually don't go down, but your payment may go up slightly just for those adjustments. So here's an example of what it might look like if the closing costs and prepaids for 100% financing at a 325 purchase price closing June 15th. So you have those closing costs, which are going to be about 2,500. We're going to estimate about 2,400 for your first year's homeowners insurance premium. There'll be some interest until your first payment is due. So at Greene State, if you close any other day other than the first of the month, your payment is kind of going to skip a month per se. You'll pay the interest, but so if you close on June 15th, you will not have a payment until August 1st on the new loan. So that's what the interest is for. So it's collecting in that June 15th to July 1st, and then your August 1st payment will pay July's interest. So and then that deposit for your escrow account of about $34.50 to make sure there's enough in there to pay taxes and insurance. And then in Iowa, taxes are paid in arrears. So the seller is going to owe taxes that aren't going to be due till you live in the property. So you get a credit for this at closing, which will then go toward your closing costs and prepaid. So based on that June 15th date for this property, it would be about $5,000. So once we take that credit into account, it's going to cost you about $4,200 at closing to purchase the property.
And you might be thinking to yourself, I don't have $4,000. But we have tricks for that too as real estate agents. So, if that is a concern for you, that's something you need to take into account when you're thinking about buying. And maybe you strategically look at homes that have been on the market for a little while so that it puts you in a position to negotiate. Maybe the seller's paying some money towards your closing costs to reduce that 4,100, by whatever we are able to negotiate for you. So that's going to look a little different for everybody, but just knowing that there will be some money that you need towards closing, and then how we could maybe mitigate that in our negotiations.
On that note, we're going to pause for questions.
A lot of numbers. If anyone, just go ahead and shout out if you have a question.
Or you can put it in the chat too, if you'd rather.
That's true. All right. You can always ask us later too. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up here with a couple more slides and just kind of give you guys a little bit of a to-do list. So it's great that you're here because now you can be proactive, okay? So you have made a rank list and you know kind of what your top choices are. So what you can start to do is just be a little bit proactive and start to maybe look at those top choices and just kind of start to look at the area, maybe look at where the hospital is, look at the other hospitals that you'll be rotating in. I know the residents that come to Des Moines, they're probably rotating downtown, out west, at the VA, and probably at Broadlawns too. So just maybe thinking about, hey, what's a good location that I can easily hit all of those. And if your residency is going to be one that's going to require you to be to take home call at any point, I know a lot of them are in-house, but if they're going to have home call maybe later on in the residency, do they have any requirements about kind of the distance or the amount of time that it takes you to get into the hospital? And so just also thinking about kind of, do you want walkability? Do you do you want to be near restaurants, near shopping, parks, trails, like the type of things that are important to you, and maybe thinking about just researching a little bit on what areas might be of interest. And then thinking about a single family home versus a condo or townhome. Again, those things that we talked about earlier with maintenance. Do you need a yard or want a yard for pets or kids? So yeah, that type of thing for kind of versus single family.
And you want to start thinking about, do you want to rent? Do you want to buy? Just start doing the math. Also, figure out what your budget should be, because if you are going from residency to grown-up doctor salary or medical school to residency, there's a big jump in income. So evaluate what part of your income you really want to spend on your housing so that you're making sure you're taking care of savings, vacations, cars, whatever else you want to do with your life. Because we will say, right, Jessica will agree,
Yeah.
the banks will be very generous with us and they will give us really wonderful loan maximums, but we should do our math and make sure that the monthly payments allow for us to live our lives the way you want to. So do that math too. I have lots of
The
math
monthly
assignments.
payment is definitely the most important number. So we see what's on your credit report, but yeah, we don't know what you spend on vacations, if you like to go out to eat every night or like to go to fancy dinners, things like that. So
Exactly. And then I also want to suggest, or we all want to suggest, is visit your city, your new city, if possible. Sometimes it's not very easy to do. Sometimes it's impossible. I've certainly have many clients coming to town and they couldn't even afford to or take the time to come before it was time for them to. So your realtor can do video tours with you. I've taken video tours of homes and neighborhoods, driving down streets so people can see what it would look like if they moved into a specific neighborhood that they're looking at. So try to visit either in person. If not, try to make it be a video one.
Oh my gosh, I keep going backwards. Why?
I think we had advice.
Yes, advice. Right.
Oh, this is me talking more. Okay.
If you
Sorry.
want to.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to. Okay, the other thing, and jump in, Andrea. One of the other things
Yeah,
that
sure,
both
absolutely.
this next part is something both Andrea and I feel pretty passionately about because we have been living our adult lives for a while and we have made choices that we would change if we could go back in town. Consider thinking about your home that you're about to move into as temporary. In that, if you're going to residency, it actually is temporary, most likely. And Andrea had a term that I thought was kind of cute, calling it house hacking. So you could do a couple things to kind of make it be a financial advantage to you to buy a house. For example, if you are lucky enough to find a duplex that you can afford, you can rent out one side and that renter, and then you live in the other side, and that rent covers your part of your monthly payment and starts paying off your mortgage for you. So that's one idea. The second one is consider after residency, rather than selling your home, keeping that residency home and turning it into a rental property. And I'm going to give you an example of what could have happened, could have, should have happened with our residency home here in Iowa City. We moved here in 98 and we bought a home for $85,000. Can you even imagine? I don't think you can buy a broken down garage for that much right now. $85,000. Our monthly pay, we had no money. I think we put zero down or a teeny bit down. And our monthly payments were about $450. After 3 years, we sold it because I didn't know any better. So please listen to this and consider doing this because it would be such a good idea for our finances to do something like this. If I had hung on to that house, moved out of it, maybe would have had to buy something slightly more modest as a a family not in residency, but I could have rented that house out for about $700 in the early 2000s. So every month I would have a couple $100 over my mortgage being covered, right? Because I said my mortgage was 450. As time went on, that little two-bedroom, one bath 1960s ranch is now worth 215 easy. Even if I had not updated anything, but maybe replaced the roof and the heating and air conditioning, those are big things. But over a 25-year span, all that little income every month that I got from my renter theoretically would have covered it. Also, the rent on that place today would be without question 1400, probably more like 16, 17 now. So I would have about $250,000 value of property, right, today. And I would have had income every single month from that property for 27 years. So isn't that amazing? So
Our
nobody
first
told
house,
me.
I know, same. Our first house we bought for 158,000, and now I still get the Zillow updates on it. It's worth like 265,000. So, yeah,
And
same,
Andrea and
same,
I are
same.
talking ourselves out of a job when we recommend
We
because
totally are,
yeah, if you do it, you don't hire us to sell your house. You're going to keep it.
but that's okay. We're okay because
Yeah,
we're
we're
here to
here
give
to give
you
advice. And
sound advice.
this is something we learned with life experience. So this is why we do this. We want to share this so you guys are smarter than we are. It's also a great
Absolutely.
additional way to build wealth for physicians who are starting off their retirement savings later than peers, right? Because we're stuck in a training and education system that takes so much longer, and our cohorts who are our same age have already started building up those 401ks for years before we even get started. So just another way to do that. So have fun with it.
And then, as you can see on there, there's just a couple other little tidbits that we've gathered from actually recently graduated medical students that are now in their first year of residency. So, when we were going through residency or the match, it was called Scramble, but I guess it's called SOAP now. So, their advice was don't be afraid to SOAP, that you can always transfer to a different program. Um, and also that the remaining rotations don't matter that much after you've matched. So just enjoy that time. Maybe try to take a little time and come to your new location and check it out once you know where you've matched. And then also just be prepared for that program to reach out to you on match day. They're excited to meet you and get to know you. Um, so that is about everything